Hi, friends. Hi, friends. Hi, friends. This is Coach Rose AJ and Coach L. Kelly coming to y'all live, straight no chaser, just after the first of the year in January 2024. Y'all, what we want to talk to y'all about today, first and foremost, is what do we want to talk to them about today, Coach L. Kelly?
Well, talking about clearing the clutter, going into
What?
2024, clearing it up, no, isn't that what we're doing?
That's what we're doing. See, guys, we never, ever, ever we never ever actually figure it out until we start talking about it. But yes, you're right, clearing the clutter. But before we begin the conversation, let me go ahead and do a disclaimer. So, Coach L. Kelly and myself, we're here because we are virtual co partners, co colleagues. We've teamed up and we are both coaches. We met in a cohort and we decided to work on this podcast and YouTube channel together to explore a lot of options and to share what we do know, to share a little bit about our lives, our experiences, and the efforts to help clients, future clients, and anybody that just may be watching, right? And so, what I want to say is please, 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 if you're embarking on a new lifestyle, a new mindset, a new way of eating, please consult with your medical team, your medical provider, or your holistic mental health provider, whoever you choose to go to for care outside of yourself. But this is what I also want to say is you are your own best advocate, right? So please don't take anything that we say as direct directions for you on how to live your life or how to make a transition. We just want to offer sound bites and experience that may help you to get started or to give you a different way of thinking. But this is our disclaimer. We are coaches. We do have clients. We love people, but do not take what we say as medical advice.
Yeah.
Do you have anything you'd like to add on to that disclaimer for the first of the year,
No,
Coach
you
L.
covered
Kelly?
it very well.
Okay. All right. So, what I would like to kind of delve into a little bit is clearing the clutter for what you really want in life in general. And then, what do you want more of in your life in 2024? And then, what do you want less of in your life in 2024? So, Coach L. Kelly, what would you like to talk about on this?
I like the topic of clearing the clutter because I
Mhm.
think that it hits right at the right time. Whether we are in a space of making New Year's resolutions or just wanting a fresh start, a new year it kind of gives people that perspective of, whatever I want to take on, I can do it. And
Right.
so I like the clearing the clutter, looking at that in January 2024, because I think, possibilities are endless in terms of, what we can do. For me, there's all kinds of areas that I'd like to clear the clutter in, whether it be health and wellness or, you know, um, finance. I don't know. I mean, finance is always a topic that we can all, kind of clear some
Relate
clutter in
to.
no matter where you're at. So
Yes.
whether it's health and wellness or finance or just different things, work, there's a lot of areas that, I think that I'd like to clear the clutter in. And so one of the ways I like to get started in doing that is just looking at, starting with my action plan in terms of what clutter do I need to clear and how am I going to go about doing it? That's really what it is.
But also at this time of the year, people are ramped up, they're fired up, the gyms are just like ignited.
Yes.
People are happy, they're coming off of the holiday season and they're using the first month, right? The first month to say that they're going to make resolutions. Now, New Year's resolutions. Now,
Yeah.
I myself used to do them in the past and I would just give up on them like almost immediately,
Yeah.
right? I'd be
Yeah.
so excited for them and then I'd give up. And at the top of them, the number one thing was weight loss. I would always want to lose X amount of weight by a certain time. It never came to fruition. And what I've learned for myself that really works is I'm very goal oriented, task oriented, right? And that's a continual thing for me. So New Year's is going to come and it's going to go for me whatever I'm working on, regardless of the time of the year, I'm working on it. And if it happens to be that it laps over into the first of the year, that's great. But I never use the first of the year as a springboard to set my goals anymore.
Right.
So, what about you? What's your take on New Year's resolutions as a whole? Or do you make resolutions for yourself or observe other people making them?
I do make resolutions for myself. I'm goal oriented too, but I'm
Mm,
also checklist oriented. I just like a checklist. It's time for a checklist.
okay.
It's January
Okay.
2024,
Okay.
time to clear the clutter, as you said, time
Yeah.
for a checklist. But that's an interesting point that you make regarding how you used to do that and then you would lose momentum. I think that everybody in the world can say that because we start off with such, fire and everything in January. Like you said, the gyms, they probably love this membership time, right? But
Mhm.
I think the issue is that life is always going to be lifing, right? Things are, no matter what kind of goals you set in January, something can happen in March that derails that, because life is lifing. You could have some kind of an unexpected illness or some kind of travesty or something that happens, something that you weren't expecting, or you could just simply you lose determination, right? Because it's really hard to keep a goal in mind and keep working towards that goal, especially if it's something that you're not going to see the end result for, after a period of time. And I think that for me, one of the challenges is not just making an action list for action's sake, but also being intentional about what that goal is. Why do I want to achieve this goal? And what kind of changes am I willing to make to achieve the goal? And not only that, having a plan to the plan to the plan. Because
Right.
when life is lifing, if I said,
Mhm.
weight loss is a big one, right? If we
Yes.
say we want to lose 20 pounds by this time,
Mhm.
but then something happens and it derails you, well, just forget it. We might as well throw the baby out with the bathwater, right? But if we
Right.
have a plan to a plan, kind of like if this happens,
Yeah.
what are some of the minimal things that I'm willing to do to still stay on track? Even if I'm not seeing the results as quickly, but just to
Right.
stay on track, what are some of the things that I can do to that backup plan so it doesn't look like I failed, so just give up?
Right.
So I think that we have to just be really clear about why we want to achieve this goal
Mhm.
and what we're willing to do to achieve that goal. And I think a lot of times, like being a list person, I may have 20 things on that list. Okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm so excited about January. I'm going to do this and that and this and that. Don't do that. Don't do that. One
Right.
of the things that
Right.
I think is really good to help us stay motivated is to
Mhm.
do a little at a time. Like what kind of focus areas are top of mind for you
Yeah.
as we're going into the year, and focus on that. Because I think we can take on so much, and the more change we have, that just becomes more overwhelming, right? And so I think kind of like cascading what you want to do. In the first 3 months, I'm going to be this focused on, well, health and wellness. Remember, I said that wrong in our last podcast, but
Yeah. And I left it in there. Ha
I
ha.
know I saw that. So I think that, cascading your plan and doing bite-sized parts of, what you want to achieve, that really helps us to stay motivated too, so we don't lose that luster because some people can only be focused on one or two things at a time. It may be, cooking and health and wellness, and I'll get to this particular goal over here. Just keeping that in mind as you're planning, I think that really helps, or it helps me too.
I hear you. And there's a one client that comes to mind real quickly when you said that clients can, or people can have too many things going on and it creates overwhelm. So this one young lady likes to do 10 things at once, literally 10 things at once. And I can tell you from my own experience, I'm totally on board with that. I get wanting to change everything at once. But what happens is like we said, the energy kind of peters out and you're just left with walking away and not wanting to do anything. So for the people that want to do 10 things and focus on those 10 things for 3 months, I'm not saying that it's unrealistic, but a more feasible approach would be these are probably the 10 things that I want to accomplish this year. But like Coach L. Kelly said, just start with one thing and have a cascading or rolling effect to reach to where you're going instead of consuming all of them at once.
Absolutely. Do you find that, so the way that you go about it, not making resolutions, just coming
Mhm,
into the year, probably still,
mhm.
you probably have your targeted points that you were already focused on before and just continuing that momentum. Do you find that that limits the kind of stress that you have around, like, I got to do these things
Yes.
once the new year starts?
Well, I do have to say that I like to do, I don't know if I shared with you maybe a month or two ago that I like day tripping. I used to do a lot of day tripping and, up to 2019 before the big C hit, meaning I would fly somewhere for a day, not necessarily overnight, just because of my schedule and time constraints. So I like the freedom of going places, but also having home to come back to, right? And
Right,
responsibilities. So I knew somewhere around October, November that my plan for 2020 was to, I mean, I'm sorry, 2024. I'm going backwards.
you're going
But
back.
2024 is I will be taking an out of town trip every month. I don't care where it's to, right?
Right,
So, with that being said, that was me ramping up to make those plans to look forward to the new year, but it wasn't necessarily a resolution. I had already decided that this is what my life is going to look like for 2024. I'm going out of my state
right.
once a month, right? But I'm a continual work in progress, as your transformation story has been entitled, a continual work in progress. And I actually feel lost if I don't have something to focus on. What about you?
Yeah, I agree. Again, just I like having goals in front of me, things that are achievable. But I will say this. I think that another reason why we may falter when it comes to holding on to resolutions for those people who set, a New Year's resolution is because a lot of times it's in areas that we want to improve in our lives, and improvement is hard. Usually, improvement requires some sort of behavior change on our part to start doing things differently. That's hard. And I think that we don't, as when I say we, I just mean we as people, don't like to be uncomfortable. It's you're gonna have some discomfort when you're embarking upon a change. If you want to lose weight, get your health in order, maybe you want to buy a home, you want to find love in your life, these types of things. I mean, and so that doesn't sound like that's going to be uncomfortable, but it may be. You may need to get out to go find love. You may need to leave the house more. You may need to have a tighter budget, and make a budget for 2024 for the year to get your home or whatever it is you want to achieve. And I think that as humans, we don't like to be uncomfortable. So I
Mm,
think that one of the things that we can do to change our mindset, at least this has worked for me, is to sit within that discomfort and know. I wouldn't say the more uncomfortable you are, but if even if you experience just a little bit of discomfort, you're headed down the right path. It shouldn't, for me anyway, like losing weight was not easy.
right,
But
right,
that
right.
discomfort I got kind of like my mojo from that discomfort, like kind of like when you have those sore muscles after you have your new workout plan.
Yes.
So I feel like we need to kind of normalize being uncomfortable or sitting in discomfort for a minute as we're going through transition too. I think that can help people to not give up so quickly on their goals.
Well, thank you for that. And if I can piggyback on that, so what I was working on last year was giving up a 30-year coffee habit, right? Seriously, drinking all the coffee. And so this is what I'm saying. If you continually working on yourself, setting goals and entering the new year and start setting goals, whatever works for you will work for you. So after a 30-year coffee habit, my commitment last year was just to make it through December 31st without a sip of black coffee. And that transition was really painful because I do things clearly out of habit. It brings me comfort. I'm socializing. I show up with Starbucks, just black coffee, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
I can make it at home. I have three coffee makers, an espresso maker. It's ridiculous. A bean grinder, two in one, just everything, right? So when I look back and I used coffee as a way to help me with depression. So I used it for so long, if you remember me saying use it for so long, that I really had to sit back and assess, is it still helping me the way it originally was helping me, right? Or
Right,
has it evolved into an addiction and it's just like whatever, it's on a pathological level. But I had to rein it back and really explore. And I was very uncomfortable. Yes, very
right.
uncomfortable because it's also a sign of me taking care of myself every day to myself, not outwardly, but it was a way of me taking care of myself.
Yes.
So I said, self, you give yourself till December 31st, and then you can give yourself permission January 1st forward. But Lakeitha, during that 6 weeks, what I decided was I don't want anything to have control of me. I don't want
Right.
anything. And the amount of money that I was spending on that pleasure, on that comfort, on that whatever, I had to get out of that comfort zone.
Right.
So I flipped that money around. So when you add it up, it's really ridiculous. Now it's giving me something else to work on because I'm free of coffee. Does that make sense? So
That
it's those
makes sense. And
continual, it makes
yeah.
continual goals, right? So with January 1st, me not imbibing, that's probably imbibing in coffee, guys, coffee. That's probably a New Year's resolution if I ever have one, is for this year, for this day, I will not have a cup of coffee,
Let me
right?
ask you this. And someone reached out to me today too, like taking on that coffee challenge themselves. They were
Yeah,
watching you and they
yeah.
were like, I love the coffee challenge. I'm like, okay,
Mhm.
good for you people. But listen, let me ask you this. How
Yeah.
uncomfortable, what would be your, if you had to rate your discomfort from a 1 to
Mhm.
10, 10 being the highest, what is your discomfort rating now as opposed to when you started, like not having the coffee anymore?
So my discomfort level was an absolute 12 to 15. It was off the charts because, when you say that you can't have something or you can't do something, you want it all the more.
Yes,
And I have a very addictive personality that I'll focus in on what I want until I get what I want. But
right,
that's also a pattern interrupt, breaking the pattern, right?
right,
So now my comfortability is like, oh, I've mastered it. It's like a one plus 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 plus. I'm cool. I'm
right,
cool. You
right,
know, yes, I do miss sipping. Yes, I do miss hanging out with friends and doing the like coffee thing, but I transitioned to tea, which I totally despise, to be quite honest. So
right.
I have like 8 more tea bags. When I'm done with that, I'm done. Right. So I use tea to transition. So I can still go to Starbucks and hang out and have some green tea and almost look, but
Okay, I'm a lover of tea, so we're going to have to work
oh,
on that because there are some places that we can go to where if that's
yeah,
going to be your new jam
yeah,
now, I would
yeah,
love to have you try some other ones. But I think that's great that you conquered that. And that so
yeah.
that was you said it was a 12 to 15 before. Where
Yeah,
are you at now?
but basically, I was off the charts with how uncomfortable I was not having the thing. But now I'm a pro. Doesn't even phase me.
I love
It
that.
doesn't phase me. Yeah.
But see, you had to get through that though. And so I think that some people may give up during that kind of
Yes.
discomfort because we just
Yeah.
don't like to be uncomfortable. Life
Painful.
is already
Yeah.
stressful enough, right? So hats off to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's really what we were talking about. It all ties in with the New Year's resolutions, expectations, cascading effects of setting goals and whatnot. It's clearing the clutter. That's exactly what it is. So you can have more of what you want in your life, right?
Absolutely.
So that was start setting the pattern for me because we're never too old to learn or restart or try something new.
Hmm.
So, what would you say would be something that you're clearing the clutter on in your life that you're okay with sharing with us?
I would say it would be my personal time management.
Yeah.
So I feel like I have so many things in my mind that I want to do, not just because it's 2024, but just life, right?
Yeah.
As we're living life, we have new goals, we have passions, and I want to not just have the passions in my head, right? I want to be able to actually live out passions and live life to its fullest. So one of my decluttering things is to clear out the noise. I was just talking to a close friend about this the other day. Clearing out the noise for me means, limiting social media, limiting my time in certain areas that I may give hours to that why are you doing that? I could have been working on this goal or this passion. And so for me, clearing out the clutter is managing my time, more effectively, actually being intentional with how I spend my time and what I'm targeted on. This is really going to, I feel like, help me to achieve the goals that I need to achieve and help me hear my own voice. The less time that I spend listening to other voices, I can hear my voice, hear God's voice, and hear, whatever this calling is or things for me. So I'm really excited about that because I've already implemented that. And you and I were joking, I said, I'm clearing out the clutter in terms of how I spend my time and, being more intentional and in the moment of when I'm
Mhm.
spending that time on a thing. And I told you, I was so intentional about spending my time over the holiday in terms of having a good time with family, and really being there and being present. But I'm so mad because I realized I forgot to take the photo. I forgot to take the photos that I make the family take. I
Yeah.
forgot I had the matching sweatshirts, the Santa shirts and everything. But that's kind of so, that won't happen next year, by the way. But that's kind of like what I mean, just being like present and in the moment
Mhm.
and really enjoying life and being intentional about that. And sometimes, if you're scrolling on social media for hours or just doing things that don't really serve you in that way, that can take away from that. So that's one of the ways I'm clearing the clutter, just being more intentional with how I spend my time.
That is beautiful. I am so glad you shared that as an actual living example, recent example of being so present that you forgot to do something that was so traditional. And the funniest thing about it is I had mentioned that that could actually be a new memory. Forgetting to take the pictures. Everybody was so caught up in whatever you guys were doing and being present that that's actually a memory, right? And then
That's
you're going to
true.
joke 60 years from now, it was just that one Christmas season that we didn't take pictures. But yeah, I love it. So let me ask you, what do you want more of in your life in 2024, Coach Al Kelly?
More of. Oh, that's a good
Mhm.
one. That's a good one. Um, I think more positivity. I think that there's so much happening in the world now. I mean, just so much, just so much. Just go social media, look at the news, whatever. There's so much going on. I want more positivity. And what I mean by that is this can actually be kind of like a 2024 resolution as well, but this is more of a life resolution, decreasing and minimizing stress, and at any particular given time. And we have to do that anyway to be able to achieve the goals that we want to achieve. We can't operate from any sort of stress state and going after what we want. And so when I think about all the passions that I have and all the things that I want to do, I really want to be, if stress free were a thing, that's what I'd want to be. So let's say less stress, right? Because we're going to have some stress in life. Um, and there's a positive stress sometimes because you're doing
Right.
things and you're shaking and you're moving. So let's say I want less of that negative stress and being intentional about minimizing that, whether it's around the company that's kept, whether it's around, improving certain, behaviors and areas that can be improved. I think that when we minimize stress, then we see our full potential. And that's what I want to be able to see. We say we want to see the forest from the trees. And so for me, that's going to be like intentional for me. What about you?
Oh, that is you for
You're so
sharing,
funny.
girl. So what I want more of in my life in 2024, I'm going to be candid, is more opportunities for growth, even if it is in my comfort zone, just stepping whatever it is up a notch, right? So for me to do that and to have more growth and opportunities, be it business related or just making connections, acquaintances, future business partners, whatever it is, I love podcasting as we're doing now. I love listening to podcasting. And so, one of the ways that I'm going to bring more into my life as far as more contacts, acquaintances, and including podcasting is it meetup.com?
Yeah,
I've joined a new group. I haven't heard anything other than me just joining the group about people who like listening to podcasts, and they're going to meet virtually to discuss the podcast that they have deemed to discuss for that week. So, kind of like a book club, but podcasts. So, I feel as though I can listen to a podcast two and three times over, get the high points, chip in, be one of the first
right,
or second ones to chip in because if somebody takes my point that I was going to share, it might get buck wild up in there. But yeah, so that's what I want more of, more opportunities, more growth, and more acquaintances, not necessarily friends, because I keep my circle extremely, extremely small,
right.
right? Really intimate, But yeah, so that's what I want more of in 2024.
I love that. And this is a perfect time to plug
Yeah.
that we are on Spotify now, right? You
Yes, we
created that
are on
for us. So yeah,
Spotify.
this is a perfect time
Yes,
to plug that as you're talking
we
about that.
are on Spotify, and it is Chit N Chat Warriors for Health on Spotify. And eventually it'll be led out to other podcasts, popular podcasts as well.
I love it.
So thank you for remembering to do that, Coach Al Kelly. So, what do you want less of in your life in 2024, dear?
Less of.
Hmm.
Um, that's a good one too. Boy, you have these like I don't know if our audience knows, like we don't plan this out, right? So
Yeah,
if we
we
did,
don't
I'd be
plan it
like
out.
this. We just kind of go with the flow.
Mhm.
But I would say less of um well, I'm very focused on my health and wellness and staying healthy and eating well. So I would say less unhealthy processed food,
Mm.
like being very intentional in that space in terms of, cooking more. So less, processed, less, food that's not really good. Not that I partake in that a lot now anyway, but there's always room for growth. I want to be like the tip top off the chart type of health. When you go to the doctor and you get
Yes.
all your blood work and all of that stuff, we want to see, all positive numbers there. So I would definitely say less of the bad stuff, more of the good stuff as it relates to food. And that's going to kind of tie into cooking, more as well. I actually really like cooking. I
Okay.
really do.
Okay.
I have a million cookbooks so I can conduct like it's business, but different cook different recipes and things like that. And so I want to do more of that, but to do more of that, I need to do less of the other. So I'd say that. What about you?
Okay, so it's funny that you should mention about doctors being in top, you want your lab work to look really, really good, almost pristine. You want to
Hmm.
work towards that. I use the word pristine, so my bad. But I always get my annual lab work done in December. So when
Hmm.
I go to the doctor in January, I have two visits for the women's visit and then the overall general wellness checkup. My lab results came back a little alarming, which we'll go into another podcast.
Okay.
But I am not trying to change those numbers to accommodate what the standards are because because of my dietary protocol
Right.
is what I want to share. And it's funny that we can talk about this at a later time, but what you're shooting for on your numbers and what I'm shooting for, they're going to be completely different, like the LDL, the
Right.
HDL,
Right.
the trigs, all that stuff. I can already tell you that mine are off the chart to the left.
Right.
I mean, to the left or the right, but they're good numbers for me, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
So, would you want yours to be in the normal range? Is that what you're shooting for, or at the higher end, like the A plus plus end of what the normal range would be?
I would say, so prior to starting on my health journey and getting all of my blood work done, and not, I would say sometime last year, not last year. I would say at the right at the beginning of 2023, because it's been a whole journey with my health since then. But I would say the numbers were not where I wanted. This is what really triggered me into saying, listen, I need to do something here and take this seriously and going down the health and wellness path and doing all of this kind of exploratory work that I was doing. But before then, my numbers were what we would call normal, HDL,
Okay. Okay.
LDL,
Yeah.
right? All were normal. But then when I went to the doctor prior to starting on my health journey,
Mhm.
some numbers were not where I wanted. The cholesterol number was a little higher,
Mhm.
and so these are areas that I had never had an issue in, but I had gained
Yeah.
weight as well.
Yeah.
And so I have my blood work that's coming up this week. So we'll talk about, when
Yeah.
you talk
Yeah.
about yours, I'll be able to talk
Yeah.
about mine and we can kind of, maybe
Yeah.
that'll be another one. But yeah, I'm shooting for normal because it was
Yeah.
normal, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Before it
Yes.
was not normal. Yeah.
Okay, so let me just interject here. So, listeners, viewers, if you guys don't know, I'm just going to give a reminder that Coach L. Kelly and Coach Rose AJ, we're offering our personal experiences here. And even if and when we discuss as much as we want our lab results, and they may be polar opposite, I can give an explanation as to why mine are what they are. Coach L. Kelly could probably give the same explanations as to why hers are the way they are. But this is what I want to tell you, especially if you're a woman over 50 going through perimenopause. Coach L. Kelly and I have completely opposite dietary protocols. She's a pescatarian. She eats plenty of vegetables and fruit, if I remember correctly.
Correct.
And she eats a whole assortment or a variety of foods that she enjoys and that works for her body and her chemistry and her mindset. I am on the opposite parallel. I am very meat based. When I say meat based, it's all animal products. Think of it that way. It's the opposite of a vegan or a vegetarian. And the reason that I went this way was because of my mental health, because of numbers that just were off the Richter. So if you're a woman that's perimenopausal or going through the change and you can't lose weight, the way you eat and when you eat, the timing can have a huge impact on your weight loss, your progress, your mental wellness. So for me, I didn't know anything about HbA1c. I didn't know anything about fasting insulin. I didn't know anything about diabetes. I didn't know any of that until I started doing the research on my own. So what I'm going to ask you guys is definitely the standard panel test is going to include the fasting glucose, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's going to include your LDLs, your HDLs, all that, your lipid panel in general. But this is what I want to clue you guys into. Please, please, please request. A lot of doctors will not do it, even if you request it. So I'm plugging this. I'm sorry, this is a journey that I'm on, Coach L. Kelly.
Yeah.
But I have all of my clients, I urge them to get a fasting insulin. Some doctors don't even know what it is. Why would you want that? Your glucose looks good. This is what's happening. If you're on the blood sugar roller coaster, meaning you're hangry, you have hormones out of whack, you're eating every couple of hours, you're never satisfied, even though you ate the giant meal, it could be because your blood glucose is out of whack and you're on a roller coaster.
Right.
We want to stop that roller coaster. And if you're only looking at the fasting glucose, it's only telling you a part of the story. If you get your fasting insulin, that number is going to be a predictor if you're going to have diet issues with diabetes. It's going to tell you what's happening with your actual blood glucose. Because what happens is your blood glucose, there's sugar in your bloodstream, insulin rushes in to remove it. The insulin is working extremely hard to keep your blood glucose down out of dangerous territory. So it's constantly going up. So if you have a high fasting insulin, there's insulin resistance and it's doing the work. It's doing the work of keeping the glucose in check. But sooner or later, that insulin is going to stop, right? And that's where, some people midlife or whatever, they can get diagnosed with diabetes type 1, where you actually need insulin in order to live, right? Or diabetes. And you have to do a lifestyle change in a hurry, or you have to be on insulin or some kind of medication to kind of keep that in check. But the fasting insulin gives you a predictor of where you will be 5 or 10 years from now, because those numbers, if they're extremely high, it's doing the work for the glucose. But if you have a low level of fasting insulin, you're okay. So my fasting insulin has been over the last 3 years, 2.5, 2.3, and 2.2 as recently as December, which is stellar. But if you have a fasting insulin beyond 10, some people have it in like 20, 25, you need to be working on that. So please, I know that was an unexpected 5 minute, synopsis, but fasting insulin is just as important as your other lab work. And if your doctor doesn't know how to apply it, insist on getting it, or you can go to walk-in labs, pay $28, $30, get it on your own without a doctor's prescription. So that's all I want to say on that. So Coach L. Kelly, I'm sorry,
No,
but
no
anyway,
apologies needed. That's
I'm
good
on a mission.
information. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's good
on a
information.
mission.
And I like how you mentioned that people just advocate for yourself. I mean,
Yes,
that's really
yes,
important, and we probably all have stories about that. Like if you didn't, so no, that don't be sorry. That's great information.
okay.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah,
Shoot, that needs to be a 2024 resolution. Just go out and get your blood work done, so you can.
yes.
Because honestly, all jokes aside, sometimes people are just thinking, I need to lose weight. And that's it. And then I can't do it. And so I'm the problem. And you may not know that all of that's happening within your body with insulin and glucose or just those types of issues, being pre-diabetic, if that's the case. So that's good information. Start there before you even sometimes start on a health and lose weight journey, because that could be the issue. So no, thank you for sharing.
Not only that, I'm taking a course right now on cholesterol because I want to understand my numbers, and I am willing to bring that to the forefront and have a discussion in the next couple of podcasts and stuff. So, yeah, I
Cool.
mean, I'm just overjoyed with the learning that I'm doing. But what I want less of in my life in 2024 is actually the mind drama, thinking that I should be more, do more, and have more. So I have
Mm,
a lot of mind drama surrounding that. I don't like resting on my laurels, and that's been a problem since birth, I think. Always trying to prove to myself, and not necessarily like in the last 5 or 6 years to the next person, but proving to myself that I am worthy. So I want to release that mind drama, right?
that's a good one.
Even though it helps me because it's like I'm having discussions and
Right.
and sorting life out with myself, but I want a little bit less of that noise
That
within.
says to me like that says to me that you may be like your toughest critic, right? You.
Yes, yes. Well, I wouldn't necessarily say the toughest critic. I'm the my biggest cheerleader and supporter, but I always think that I could be doing more because I
Ah,
want more,
gotcha.
right? I
Yeah,
could be reading more books. What
yeah,
more is that other
right,
than what I'm imposing on myself?
right. So you need to sit in the discomfort of not doing more. You got me.
Right, right, right. All right. Is there anything else you'd like to share before we close out, Coach Al Kelly?
No, just I'm excited for 2024 and this year and everything that it brings. I wish everyone a happy new year and looking forward to meeting again on our next podcast.
Right on. And thank you guys so much for listening and or watching. And what I do want to say is you always have the opportunity to begin anew. You can begin the next day. You can begin the next moment that you decide to begin. So you don't have to wait for the new year. You don't have to wait for your birthday. You don't have to wait until the end of the year before you begin. We're only guaranteed so many hours, so many days, so many years to live. And we don't know what that guarantee is. The person who created us or the spirit that created us only knows that. So don't waste time wishing you had started. Whatever you need to start and improving on or beginning, just begin today. All right. I love you guys. And I can't wait till our next podcast. And thank you for our support. Please like, please subscribe, and please share. We need y'all. We need y'all, people. We need y'all. All right. Thank
Yes.
you. Okay. Bye
Bye.
bye.